好，美國時評呢個直播節目嘅 TM 今日咧就近乎準時開咪啦，因為而家香港時間就係1516，咁啊原本諗住呢個節目咧就係下晝5點搭3啊，每逢5點搭3開始啊，咁咧就係所以今日咧能夠準時。咁啊今日能夠準時就係因為咧我原本要準備想講啊呢一啲嘅新聞嘅數量咧今日就唔多，咁啊所以準備時間都唔多。如果係追翻啲新聞嘅話，其實都係講翻幾多喎。因為之前啊星期四冇開直播啊，例行休息日子啦，咁啊之後去到星期五咧，上一林 Y 嗰個嘅啤梨晚報啤梨頻道嘅啤梨晚報節目咧就做直播，不過去到星期六咧就變咗個 live chat 自由 talk 咧就係大部分時間啊都係用嚟咧就喺呢一個嘅再次解釋翻我上去嗰個嘅人哋台嗰個直播節目咧就係講啲乜。即係關啲 UFO 啊、UAP 等等嘅奇現象啊，嗰啲嘅事情，咁啊，所以咧就隔咗幾日嘅。如果再追翻啲新聞嘅話咧，都要呢個講好多。而且如果係咁嘅話，多數都係會講翻又係戰爭相關嘅事項。其實嗰方面梗係每日都會有進展㗎啦。咁啊，但係就其實嗰個嘅變化嘅程度啊，亦都唔係真係咁多。咁啊，等同於就係其實每一日都可以講呢個嘅俄烏戰爭嘅，即係我唔係話咁樣做唔值得啊，千祈唔好誤會。咁啊，但係只不過就係即係我作為一個比喻啫。咁啊，就每一日嗰個變化其實亦都唔係大嘅。咁啊，所以就係既然係咁，我哋都唔刻意追翻新聞咧。咁啊，今日就係都係無論係美國啦，或者香港咧，都係近呢個都係週末時間，所以佢新嘅事情咧，亦都唔係真係好多。好咁啊，就係未入英文呢一個嘅階段啊，咁啊而家都仲係廣東話嚟到講住先嘅。由上個兩課金 close 一個 PayPal，歡迎大家就喺課金支持下咧。小弟嘅呢個頻道或者節目，另外都可以喺呢個 live chat room 啦，或者重溫嗰陣時咧，就係呢一個嘅做 super chat 就課金支持嘅。另外非金錢形式啦，咁啊俾個 like 俾我啦，咁啊 share 嗰啲嘅貼文啊，用你哋嘅社交平台啊嚟到去咧就願意咁一撳個掣，咁樣會 share 咧，其實呢一個咧都係舉手之勞嚟嘅啫。我啲嘅出品亦都唔係真係咁唔見得人嘅，我諗。不過可能你會覺得有啲唔安全啦，但係其實唔會，因為我好多時講啲新聞咧，就唔係全部係啊，但係好多時講啲新聞或者一啲嘅文章、貼文等等，都係講緊美國內部嘅情況。咁啊，所以其實大家唔需要太過顧忌呢一樣嘢嘅。仲有就係呢一個，例如畫面文章都係啦，陣間都會講到。咁啊，仲有就比較呢一個嘅留言啊，無論喺 live 呢個嘅 chat room 啊，又或者重溫嗰時留言咧，我都會睇，咁咧亦都係會對我哋有啲幫助嘅。Felix 咧都係你咧，就係呢個習慣第一個位嘅進場啦，進呢一個嘅留言區。咁啊，仲係 Patty Young 你好，咁啊有冇讀錯你個姓氏啊？定係 Patty Young 啊？咁其實對於我都係講一次啊，對於呢啲嘅用英文啊嘅中文拼音嗰啲嘅姓或者名咧，其實我個發音都唔係咁有信心。好，咁啊就呢個畫面呢度啊，咁啊近期就係16小時之前啊就係啱啊，咁啊就係呢個 Facebook 啊，咁啊就係 Twitter 文咧都係會有呢個時間呢一點。咁啊除件衫先，有一熱啊。咁啊今日嘅炒少少啦，今日嘅近呢幾日嘅天氣啊都係非常之好嘅。溫度對於我嚟講對過少少，如果去翻去20度或者10零度咧，17、8度咧，我覺得都幾唔錯嘅。今日都係暖咗啲啊！而家近乎熱嘅，其實再嗰次對於我嚟講25度或以上咧攝氏啊，就已經係當然我唔係講呢個華氏啊，講攝氏啊，25度或以上咧，就係覺得有啲熱嘅，即係對於我嚟講覺得熱嘅啦。而家天氣都唔係叫熱。呢個嘅溫度嚟講，但係咧嗰個天色咧就幾好啊，即係近乎係萬里無雲。其實呢啲時間咧唔應該留喺室內嘅，即係亦都唔應該做呢啲我做緊嘅嘢。應該啊，就係行下山啊、遊山玩水啊，咁咧就係最適當。行商場都唔好啊，去 shopping 咧亦都唔係一個好嘅時間。應該咧就係去咧呢個嘅郊區地方度咧，就係呢個遊山玩水啊最好嘅啦。但係就既然習慣上，即係我諗聽日都仲會係咁嘅天色嘅，咁啊聽日先去啦嚇。咁而家咧就係做翻呢個嘅節目，就畫面呢度16小時之前啦，咁啊就係咧寫一篇文章，咁啊就係呢一個嘅有呢個相反極端啊。如果你話國內咧，美國國內啊講 一啲嘅係會有人撐哈梅內伊喎，係會有人撐呢個嘅伊朗嘅威權政府嘅喎，係會咧就係呢個嘅有人反對美國或者以色列呢呢個嘅進攻或者呢個嘅空襲伊朗嘅呢啲嘅目標嘅噃，咁啊就呢班人咧通常都係左派人士啦或者自由派人士啦，都係啲嘅積極地反呢個嘅美國。甚至乎係仇恨美國一班嘅左翼人士嚟嘅，咁相反啦噃，咁咧就係呢一個嘅對付呢一個嘅伊朗嘅極權政府，又或者呢一次嘅空襲啊，咁所組成嘅呢個梗係美軍啦，以色列都係有嘅，亦都唔好睇小佢哋嗰個攻勢啊。特別就係再講多次咧，其實我係覺得以色列咧攻擊呢個能源設施啊，係正確嘅一個嘅行為嘅。咁倒翻轉嚟講咩美軍啊？美軍而家咧就係呢一個嘅繼續空襲緊呢一個嘅伊朗嘅一啲嘅唔同嘅目標，而咧呢一個嘅美軍嘅行動都係要由呢一個人所構成㗎啦，就唔係唔通用純粹嘅機械嚟 AI 做咩？而家軍人或者軍官咧就多數一係咧就係自己都係共和黨員啦，又或者係支持共和黨嘅人士嘅，而且就係即使佢哋唔係呢個黨員都好啦，咁啊好似我咁，其實都可以被定性為一個嘅右翼或者一個保守派嚟嘅。咁咧就係一個嘅兩個極端咯噃，咁咧就係可以如果一個嘅過分簡化，嗱即係有啲危險啊，其實咁講，所以篇文其實最尾嗰段其實寫得係相對仔細少少。我話呢個右派咧係理性右派，我唔覺得就係所有右派人都會係一啲理性或者一啲嘅非極端分子，有少部分嘅右派人士都係極端分子啦。而左派亦都唔係全部都係啲極端人士嘅，有部分都係理性，即係例如嗰幾次啦呢個節目，可能有啲嘅觀眾都唔欣賞佢嘅民主黨嘅一個參議員啊 John Fetterman， 我覺得就係佢咧係屬於一個嘅理性嘅一個嘅民主派人士嚟嘅，或者民主黨人士，所以我覺得佢應該都係脫黨或者變咗中間派人士比較好啲，但係就係如果咁諗，可能會影響到佢個政治前途啦。咁所以佢而家都唔係咁做。我會覺得就係大家係企喺邊一邊咧，咁咧就係你支持一班極左啊，定還是支持而家理性右派咧？咁就兩邊俾你揀啦。而你揀邊嘅話咧，其實代表你就邊一類嘅人㗎啦。最尾一段其實都係咁寫嘅。而香港都係嘅，你見得到香港嗰班時評人或者一班嘅一個普羅大眾啦、時評人啦等等啦，如果你企喺邊一邊咧，都反映咗你係邊一類人嚟㗎啦。都明，而且都明顯㗎啦。仲有就係我自己覺得就只係美國極左係呢個美國自己本土嘅一啲嘅問題，而且係甚至乎係變咗世界寄生蟲，因為就係呢一個嘅美國左派，你個立場咧其實間接係影響到呢個世界嘅秩序或者世界其他嘅人，特別就係爭取緊自由民主嘅人啊，佢哋嘅前途如何？咁啊，所以呢個嘅做呢啲人啊，或者呢類人咧嘅一個嘅對世界壞影響或者個壞處咧，就並不單止淨係停留喺自己嗰個嘅地方嗰度。不過佢哋唔會明嘅，佢哋亦都唔會咧就係作出咩反省㗎啦。應該成世人都會咁嘅，特別你上咗年紀都唔會改變，又或者甚至乎你覺得改變係會有損自己嗰個威嚴或者自尊啊。越老嘅人咧就唔知點解就越難咧就放低呢一樣嘢嘅，就係咁啦。咁所以你企喺邊一邊咧，咁都係你嘅選擇，但係你選擇都點嘅話，人哋會點樣睇你咯？呢篇文咧，我都係其中一點咧，都係想表達呢一樣嘢。呢篇文章就唔算悶，入邊有啲嘅內容咧係會幫人覺得比較悶少少，即係例如我分析呢個嘅美國軍隊啊，呢一個嘅唔同嘅軍團入邊，究竟佢哋嘅政治立場係點啊？又或者喺翻左派嗰邊就又係講翻左派嗰啲有咩嘅唔同嘅組織，呢啲組織係受咗邊啲人嘅一個捐款嘅支持，嚟到喺美國國內或者國外進行呢一啲，居然就係支持呢一個嘅伊朗極權啊嘅一啲嘅社運嘅活動，都幾古怪下嘅。咁呢啲嘅女權分子咧就話自己聲稱係支持女權，但係支持一個咧就喺海外伊朗嗰度就係用各種嘅極端嘅暴力嘅手段嚟到去壓迫女性嘅一啲嘅一個嘅一個政權，同埋咧一個嘅獨裁者。咁我自己覺得就其實呢篇文都係簡單解釋過點解會有呢個嘅現象出現嘅，唔算太深入啊，因為呢篇文我都唔想寫得太詳細。但係就係唔困難咁。如果想睇嘅話，其實睇呢篇文就係冇辦法技術性嘅障礙，即係唔好話你唔識某啲嘢之後咧，你又睇唔明篇文，其實就唔會嘅。OK，所以篇文大家咧就可以仲係睇一睇。 咁啊好啦喎，咁啊就係趁人少少，而家得7個人睇緊直播啊，亦都係感謝呢個娃娃同埋就係Jackson 真咧，而家入場睇條片。咁啊而家開始正題啦喎，咁啊就正如我之前所講過啦，咁啊就係今日今日嘅新聞咧，係都係英文廣播嘅。咁啊就講完之後咧，就去翻呢一個嘅廣東話咁啊，作為一個作結或者睇翻大家留言點樣。咁啊就係試一次啊，一次唔係話之後反應好嘅話就之後轉咗做英文，唔係啊，即係試一次咁大把啫。咁啊之後咧都係我相信都係維持翻廣東話做呢個節目嘅。不過不嬲都有呢個諗法，就不如試一次用翻英文嚟到做一睇下效果。我自己測試下自己個效果如何，咁啊睇下點啦噃。咁啊，第一單新聞啦，咁啊就係收唔收都用呢個廣東話講幾句先啦。就係一個嘅ABC 嘅報導，Judge Boris blasts President Trump throws subpoena issue to Fed Chairman Jerome Powell DOJ response。嗱，呢度再講一講，其實我唔係照稿讀㗎，你可能以為我照稿讀，其實我根本唔需要。如果我表達自己個諗法用英文嘅話，其實我係可以好流暢，而咧無需任何嘅呢個稿件。On Friday, U.S. District Judge James Boris and Obama-appointed Washington the Justice Department subpoena issued to the Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. Judge Boris blasted Trump and U.S. Attorney Pirro and said the subpoenas were improperly issued after the president pressured Powell to lower interest rates. The Justice Department will appeal Judge Boris' decision, of course, and I hope they will do that. Federal investigation in January opened a criminal investigation into Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. Powell is under fire for the cost of renovating the Fed's D.C. headquarters. The cost ballooned from $1.9 billion to $2.5 billion. Let's see. Last July, Jerome Powell was criminally referred to the Justice Department for prosecution. GOP Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna sent a letter to the DOJ accusing Powell of perjury. U.S. Attorney for D.C. Jeannie Pirro blasted Judge Boris during remarks on Friday afternoon. And I'm showing the screen that is the District Court for District of Columbia, and it is a memorandum opinion from the judge. And this in the screen is what Jenny Pirro said during his press conference. She said, this judge has put himself the entrance door to the grand jury, slamming that door shut irrespective of the legal process, and thus prevented the grand jury from doing the work that it does. And of course, I hope that the DOJ will truly appeal this judge's decision to the highest court, that is the Supreme Court, and let's subpoena this Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. Let's see what he will say and how he can explain why the cost of renovation is skyrocketing to such a high level, to the $2.5 billion. And next piece of the news will be this one. This one is quite interesting. If I don't mention this, I think no other Cantonese YouTube channels will mention it. Trump confirms legendary story about how he broke up a fight involving Kobe Bryant in the 1990s during the J. Paul interview. In a recent sit-down interview with the YouTuber on the right one, and the boxer J. Paul, President Donald Trump confirmed a right story from the 1990s, where he stepped in to break up a hit altercation involving NBA legend Kobe Bryant. The clip shared widely on the social media today shows Trump recounting the incident, emphasizing the risk of this escalating fight. It's quite interesting. Trump said, I broke up a fight, which sometimes is more dangerous than being in a fight. Kobe was having a hard time with somebody. Yeah, I broke it, but probably not a smart thing to do. The fight is between Kobe Bryant and, as I remember, is the former New Jersey Nets forward player, Jason Williams. Williams is established a veteran, greeted Bryant casually in that incident, but Kobe's brief response enraged him somehow, leading Williams to lunge and punch Bryant. Trump intervened, grabbing Williams and allowed Bryant to exit safely. So if you want to know this incident in depth, you should find out on YouTube. YouTube has a full version video clip in this J. Paul's YouTube channel. But this one is edited or cut the version available on the X page, Eric Doughty's X page. So if you know want more the details, you should do it yourself. Go to YouTube. And the next one, next piece of news. As NYC considers a $30 minimum wage, business owners are warning about the consequences. the city stands to make a decision about its minimum wage that can only hinder growth, create layoff, and result in price hikes. So the council recently introduced a bill to set the minimum wage at $30 per hour. Democratic City Councilwoman Sandy Nurse put a $30 for our city legislation forward, as WPIX reported on Tuesday. The outlet laid out the wage hike scheme from the bill. Businesses and franchises that employ more than 500 people must pay $20 an hour in 2027, $23 in 28, $26 in 2029, and $30 by 2030. Small employers, on the other hand, have a different roadmap, with a $19 minimum in 2027, $21.50 in 28, $24 in 29, $27 in 30, and $29 in 2031. The increase would increase the cost of living adjustment and yearly hikes that account for inflation. And according to Wall Street Journal, this one, as shown on the screen right now, Melissa Fletcher, the president of the New York State Restaurant Association, anticipated one of the consequences of this potential change, said that we feel like we are at the tipping point with consumers with respect to price increases that will offset higher wages. She said, you added, there's only so much you can charge for a slice of pizza or a cheeseburger. The Wall Street Journal also reported comments by Mo Chen, which has a coffee and tea company in Queens. He said, as much as I would like to pay $30, we don't have money. And according to the New York State government website, the minimum wage for a city is set at $17, now seeing a 50-cent increase at the beginning of the 2026. Although the Wall Street Journal said food delivery drivers will make $21.44 under other regulations are not impacted, 1.68 million workers stand to see an increase. The outlet said the Democratic Mayor, Zoran Downey, unsurprisingly, of course, supported the $30 wage during his campaign. So I would see just what will happen. Layoff would be inevitable. Why would an employer who wants to pay two people $17 each for an hour of work, totally $34, keep them both for $60? The workforce will shrink, of course, and employees will find themselves taking more responsibilities as they're forced to do their jobs and that of their former co-worker. Granted, the pay increase schedule does not make the aggressive jump from $70 to $30 overnight, but the effects will be all the same. Higher prices, then higher employment rates. And I think it's what deserved for New Yorkers if you vote for Zoran Downey's. And the next one, let's give it some time to cross out these pages on my browser. Okay. The next one will go to Antifa. These 9 guys, jury finds these 9 guys, Antifa members, guilty of terrorism charges in attack on Texas ICE detention center. A jury found 9 Antifa members guilty of terrorism charges in an attempt on an ICE detention center in Texas. The 9 indicted defendants show on the screen. I'll not name them one by one. Of course, it's wasting my time. Last 4th of July, nearly a dozen Antifa members dressed in black bulk and body armor descended on the Prairie Land ICE detention center in Alvarado, Texas. The terrorists fired explosives, vandalized their federal vehicles, and fired shots at police officers. A police officer was shot in the neck. The defendants were found guilty on riot charges, providing material to support terrorists, conspiracy to use a carry explosive, and using a carrying explosive, 3 counts of attempted murder of an officer, 3 counts of discharging a firearm during the following crime, corruptly concealing a document, and conspiracy to conceal the documents. All these charges. And why I mentioned this case, I can just leave it out. Don't mention it in my program. But because that is the first ever federal Antifa terrorism trial in Texas. So it's worth mentioning. If you want to know the details, you should go to gocomment.com, ngocomment.com, and search for this title. All members of Texas Antifa self-convicted in first federal terrorism trial. And you will know more details about it. And the next piece of news is from the NYT, that means New York Times. New York Times report first confirmed the attack by Gulf nation against Iran as expected, and missiles were fired from Bahrain. Bahrain against the mullah's regime. Will the Gulf state turn on Iran? It does seem at this point that the first attempt by the Arab nation against the Iranian mullah has already happened. The New York Times reported that they were able to verify video showing ballistic missiles launched from the Bahrain towards Iran by hosting the U.S. Navy Fifth Fleet. Bahrain had been accused by Iran of enabling U.S. military operations. The footage is available on this New York Times report or on the X from the X page called Egypt's Intel Observer. The footage is original. This comes from this X page also and was geolocated to northern Bahrain near the airport. The NYT's experts identified the launchers for at least one missile at the U.S.-made M142 HIMARS truck. That launcher, I should have a blown-up video. Okay, let me play it out. This launcher is a US-made M142 HIMARS truck, according to the West J. Bryan, a national security analyst who served in the US Air Force, and Fabian Hoffman, a missile specialist at the University of Oslo. Bahrain purchased this equipment in 2025, but as of now, it's unclear if US and Bahrainian forces were operating it. The Gulf nation and even Bahrain have denied Allied missile launches from their territory to avoid Iranian retaliation. The NYT heard experts suggesting that U.S. personnel may be operating the system, given their presence and Bahrain's limited capabilities. But I would expect that I expect that more of these kinds of attacks will come from other Arab nations, for example, UAE or even Saudi Arabia, and let's wait and see how this will turn out. The next piece of the news will come from the Minnesota. Even the left is tired of Ilhan Omar gas major primary challenge from the anti-ICE lawyer. Perhaps it's not surprising. It's not that surprising. Let's see. There's a paywall. I can get rid out of this paywall. So let's refresh the page. And let's see if we can get rid of some of this. Oh no, I'm sorry. The Minnesota Star Tribune is coming from. Perhaps it's not surprising the liberal Minneapolis prosecutor Julie Lee, who went viral from telling a judge, "This job sucks." The protest of immigration enforcement is looking for a new job. It's also not surprising the new job she is seeking is that of a lawmaker running on an anti-ICE platform. What is surprising is who the Democrat is talking of. Democrat Representative Ilhan Omar, the left's most obnoxious sacred cow. As the Minneapolis Star Tribune reported Thursday, the former federal attorney who lashed out at a judge over ICE enforcement during Operation Metro Search is gunning for a Democratic nomination for the U.S. House in Minnesota's 5th Congressional District. Of course, this whole run wouldn't have been possible if it weren't for the fact that Julie Lee effectively crashed off the public surface during the February 3rd hearing, in which she had what would charitably be described as an episode. Telling the judge that she has stupidly accepted the assignment with the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota, she but begged the judge to penalize her so she could get a mental health day. As she said, "Sometimes I wish I would just be held in contempt, Your Honor, so that I can have full 24 hours of sleep." She added, "What do you mean? What do you mean? Want me to do? The system sucks. This job sucks." Lee was quickly removed from the detail, of course, according to the New York Post. If the Minnesota Star Tribune has a paywall, I'm sure New York Post wouldn't have. So if you want to see, if you want to know the details of this incident, you can go to your post. Unprofessional and becoming well, the next way was clearly Congress, where that's not only acceptable but encouraged on the left. And what's more, she looks possibly reasonable compared to the woman who currently holds the seat. Lee told the New York Times that she would be a more moderate lawmaker than Mrs. Omar, who has called for abolishing immigration and customs enforcement. This one is Julie Lee. At least she's an Asian. She should be an Asian. I'm not sure she is Chinese or not. Of course, anyone to the right of the corpse of the Fidel Castro could be perceived as more moderate than Omar, of course. A virulent anti-Semite and a vibrant who also happens to appear corrupt as all get out, and has been possibly accused of committing immigration fraud by entering into marriage of convenience with a man sources have claimed that she is her brother. And while Oman has the advantage of fundraising and the support of the Somali community in the district, it's worth noting that she faced other tough challenges since she was elected in 2018. At 2022, let's see. This one, stay at this screen. While the Omar has the advantage of the fundraising in the 2022 Democratic primary against the small-fry state politician Don Samuels, ending a narrow victory for the incumbent squad members, 50.3 to 48.2%. Omar's penchant for the rhetorical bomb throwing and self-promoting others makes her a thorn in the side of Democrats and a boom for Republicans who have bought more than a few lunches of her grafts and solipsism. So yes, Lee has an uphill battle, I think, but she's got two things on her side. First, the primary isn't just until August. Second, even Democrats are tiring of having to explain Ilhan Omar's antics to America. Of course, it's not exactly the best substitute in the world, what with it being a prosecutor who thought her job sucks because she has to enforce immigration law. It says a lot when we can pretty certain she will still be better than Omar. So let's see how this thing will turn out. How will the Julie Lee in the primary win the Omar? Is a great interesting development. The next one is about the Save America as one of the most important things, one of the things that President Trump most cared about in the recent days. Rhino, I should say Rhino. Rhino said Lisa Murkowski says she won't support Save America Act because it will, quote, disenfranchise an extraordinary majorities, unquote. Rhino said Lisa Murkowski on Wednesday flat out admitted she won't vote for Save America Act, adopting Democrat talking points and claiming the bill would disenfranchise voters in her state. Murkowski is one of the 25 GOP senators who are not on record supporting a stand-in filibuster to pass the SAFE Act. Rhino said Majority Leader John Thune refuses to rip the votes from Republican senators to support stand-in filibuster and pass the Save America Act. The Save America Act, as it drafted, she says, is gonna disenfranchise an extraordinary majority. Whereas she added, while I support citizenship voted for the ID, I want to make sure that is implementable. As the screen is from Lindo TV reporter Alison Steinberg confronted Murkowski earlier this week. However, I must point out, the implementation of the SAFE as summarized is no ID, no vote. The Act requires voters to have just only one of the following in the screen in order to register. Either is the driver passport, driving license, or the passport, or some other documentation who can prove you as U.S. citizen. So there's no such a difficulty at all, and it would not disenfranchise anyone who really want to vote if you can prove you are a U.S. citizen. As I have mentioned before, Steinberg also confronted Rhino John Cornyn over this pro-amnesty red flag law anti-border law record, and Cornyn lost it, accusing her of being paid by the Paston campaign. The little TV reporter, I forgot what was her name, as find it out. Okay, Alison Steinberg has asked John Cornyn this embarrassing question to him, and how he told the reporters is that, I'm just a concerned American citizen representing millions of other Americans. You are paid influencer because none of that is true and you know it. She is accusing back the reporter she has a paid influencer, but who is the real one, of course, I think is the John Cornyn. So I will really hope that Ken Paxton can replace this kind of a rhino, John Cornyn. And you should wait for the good news. if you are Americans, because I hope that this Safe Americans will pass, and I think it's probably will pass before November. It will take maybe 2 to 3 months more, but I would quite certain I'm having hopefully I should use just this word hopefully. This will pass before November, because the news I will just present to you in the next couple of minutes. But before that, let's see there's embarrassing news from the California election fraud in the deep blue California. Of course, the official investigate election scheme paying people to sign ballot petitions with fake names. California election officials investigated disturbing allegations that petition circulators in San Francisco were paying individuals to sign ballot petitions using fake names. According to some state officials, the investigation began after a video surfaced online earlier this week showing what appears to be a cyber operation offering cash in exchange for signatures on ballot petitions. News4JAX or News4JS reported. The footage here, although it's blurred, posted Monday on X shows a sign reading signed petition for $5, which a line of people waiting along the San Francisco sidewalk. At a nearby voting table, a woman appears to be instructing individuals on what name and address to use while filling out the petitions. When the person recorded the video as what the petition was for, the woman simply responded, "Just sign it." The video went viral and caught the attention of the California election authorities. In a statement Friday, California Secretary of State's office confirmed it is actively investigating the matter. The office said, "We are aware of and investigating the matter." That is come from the local TV station, the Kara 3. And also, WBAL have reported the same piece of news. Of course, this election fraud machine has been operating well before this Safe Americans have been pushed by Trump, MAGA, or some of the Senate leaders, Senate majority senators from the Republican parties, and will be keep operating at least until after the November election. And it is not just because of the midterm election; it's also because they want to fight for a proposed test of billionaires. This one I want to, as I said, WBAL has also reported the same piece of news. This one I want to mention some of the comments from a senior advisor from the President Trump. This guy, senior Trump advisors, urges U.S. to declare victory and get out of Iran conflict. A senior advisor to the President Donald Trump is urging Washington to seek a swift exit from the escalated conflict with Iran, warning that continued fighting will further destabilize the Middle East and continue to rattle the global market even worse than they already have. David Sachs is White House advisor overseeing artificial intelligence and, as I remember, cryptocurrency policy, said the United States have already achieved significant military objectives and should now consider stepping back before the conflict widens further. Speaking of the widely followed audio podcast, Sachs argued that the moment may have arrived for Washington to pursue an off-ramp rather than escalate further. Sachs said, "We have degraded Iranian capabilities massively. It is a good time to declare victory and get out." The remarks represent one of the clearest calls for a prominent Trump-aligned figure, urging negotiated exit from the conflict. Sachs framed the issue not in ideological terms, but as a matter of strategic realism and American national interest. He said, "If escalation doesn't lead anywhere good, then you have to think about how you de-escalate." Added that the escalation would likely involve a ceasefire or negotiated settlement. The conflict, of course, begins on February 28th, when the U.S. and Israel launched coordinated strikes against Iranian military targets. And as of now, the Iran's ambassador to the United Nations says more than 1,300 people have been killed in Iran since the conflict began. Israeli authorities report 12 deaths from the Iranian language attacks inside Israel, while the American military has confirmed that at least seven American service members have been killed during the fight, not including for the crash of the KC-135 straddle tankers. Despite those casualties, SAC argued that Washington must carefully consider whether prolonged conflict actually serves American strategic interests. Within the American first wing of the Republican movement, skepticism towards open-ended foreign wars remains strong, of course. Many national conservatives argue that American foreign policy must prioritize sovereignty, stability, and the well-being of the American citizens rather than drifting into prolonged regional conflicts. Such comments appear to, at least, reflect that cautious string of thinking within the broader Trump coalition. He warned that typical escalation would unleash a cascade of consequences across the region. One scenario he described involved Iranian retaliation against Gulf oil infrastructure, which play a critical role in global energy supply. Even more alarming, Sachs suggested, would be an attack on desalination plants that provide drinking water across much of the Arabian Peninsula. He said, I think it is something like 100 million people on the Arabian Peninsula that get their water from desert. Desert means desalination plant. He said, warning that such strikes could trigger severe humanitarian and economic disruption. Says also cautioned that prolonged missile exchanges could strain Israel's air defense systems if conflicts dress on. The broader danger, he suggests, is that the war could spiral into a wider regional confrontation that becomes increasingly difficult to control. Financial markets appear to reacting to that risk. Oil prices have already, of course, you must know that, right, jumped sharply since the conflict began, reflecting fears that prolonged fighting could disrupt critical energy supplies. So that suggests that a rapid escalation could calm markets and reduce economic uncertainty. He said this is clearly what the markets would like to see. As you should know it, the geographical stakes was even more apparent after President Trump announced a major American bombing raid targeting Iran's Kurd Island, as I mentioned in the past episode, one of the country's most important oil export terminals. The facility handles roughly 90% of the Iran's crude oil exports. A wider conflict would threaten, of course, oil flows and intensify economic instability across much of the world. Inside Washington, however, as I noted, the debate over how to proceed remains unsettled. Some policymakers favor maintaining pressure on Tehran, of course, and on continuing military operations. Others fear that a prolonged war could drain American resources while creating new strategic vulnerabilities. The divide reflects a broad shift within the American right. While national conservatives strongly support defending American interests and allies, many remain worried of repeating the mistakes of early interventionist eras. Says intervention highlights the emerged debate. His argument is not that Iran should be trusted or appeased, but that strategic victories sometimes require strategic restraint. And in his will, I think the United States has already demonstrated its military power and deterrence. Continuing the war indefinitely risks triggering instability that ultimately harms American interests. But I predict, I think, and I expect that I predict that in the coming 1 or 2 weeks, these military confrontations or war, as I mentioned it, would not stop. But Trump would choose to strike more military targets within the Iran until Iran has shown some true sincerity towards a peaceful relationship between them and the U.S. And so let's move on to the other piece of news. This piece of news is the interesting turn. As this conservationist would just state that this military confrontation must be ended as soon as possible. There's a huge turn from the Hamas. Hamas is the, of course, as you know it, is supported by the Iran, this country or this regime. And Hamas has just told Iran to stop. This is a great interesting turn, isn't it? Let's cross out some pages to save the computer's resources first. Okay, this is the first time that Hamas has told Iran to do anything in public. Hamas is an arm of the Iranian Islamic terrorist regime. Hamas followed Iran's directions. In a shocking announcement, Hamas has told Iran to stop the efforts to damage its Middle Eastern neighbors. It's quite interesting. Here's the more from the historical action from this page. Sanaka Aslam Pereira, this page. I will just blow it up, but hold it this way. Breaking. Hamas just told Iran to stop. The organization that Iran armed, funded, trained, and deployed at the southern plate of the axis of the resistance has issued a public statement calling on our brothers in Iran not to target neighboring countries and urging all countries in the region to cooperate to stop this aggression and preserve the bonds of brotherhood. Al Jazeera Arabic and Palestinian media confirmed the statement. Hamas has not denied it. No access of member has contradicted. The most important fraction of the 2024 was not caused by a bunker buster from US or Israel or IDF. It is caused by a press release. Hamas is Iran's creatures. RGC Cuts Force has provided about $100 to $350 million annually since 2007 through cash smuggling via cyanide tunnels, Hezbollah's intermediaries, cryptocurrency transfers, and direct task force payments. The fighters survived the Syrian war spread in 2012, the reconciliation that followed, and the autosuccessful operation that Hamas coordinated with Iranian strategic guidance. For 17 years, the money flowed in one direction only, and the loyalty flowed in the other, of course. The statement breaks that symmetry, not completely and not irreversibly, but publicly. Hamas affirmed Iran's right to respond to American and Israeli aggression by all available means in accordance with international norms and law. That is the loyalty clause, of course. Then it asks Iran to stop hitting the countries that Hamas needs to survive. That is the survival clause. Two clauses are incompatible, and Hamas knows it. You cannot affirm the nation's right to fire missiles at Saudi Arabia and simultaneously ask it to stop firing missiles at Saudi Arabia. The statement is no diplomacy. It is a distress signal call, dressed in diplomatic language. The distress is real also. Iran has struck the UAE, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, fired towards Oman and Qatar since the 28th of February. Every one of those countries hosts Palestinian communities. Qatar BDS Hamas ceasefire negotiations. EU processes Hamas-linked financial transfer. Saudi Arabia diplomatic wing shapes the Arab League position on Gaza. When Iran fires missiles at these countries, it is not attacking Israel's allies. It is attacking Hamas lifelines. So Hamas depends on $100 to $350 million from Iran for weapons and military structure. It depends on Qatar for diplomatic survival and political legitimacy. It depends on Gulf states for financial channels that keep Gaza's economy from total collapse. Iran's war is destroyed second, and third dependencies were prosecuted first. Hamas just told its patron that the price of resistance has come to destruction of the support network resistance requires. So you will see what this just happened. Hamas has begging diplomatically for Iran to stop. The essence of resistance has built a simple proposition. Iran funds, Iran arms, Iran directs, and the process fight Israel on five fronts simultaneously. The proposition assumed Iran would never attack the countries that process need to survive. That assumption died when Iran's missiles hit Dubai, Riyadh, and Bahrain. Hamas' statement is the death certificate to all those processes, including Hamas. The organization that started war Iran is now fighting, just as Iran to stop fighting it the way Iran chose to fight it. The essence is not broken, but for the first time in 17 years, it's argued in public. The argument is whether the war is destroying the alliance the war was designed to defend. So I just hope that more and more processes and more Iranian nations will against Iran's tyranny. Just at least diplomatically attacking Iranian, this regime, or even physically and kinetically have a military strikes against Iran, this regime. Okay, next, you should see it as the screens have just shown BBC is where the BBC this piece of news. Hamas urges key allies Iran to halt attacks on Gulf state. And next, I will come back to the U.S. Prominent DC never Trump admits to collaborating with Epstein in bid to take down Trump. So for most of these liberal medias, they were trying to show to the world that they care about Epstein's this instance is just because Epstein has do something bad to those women, and they will care about women's rights. But In reality, it is not. It's all about attacking Trump. It's all about eliminating Trump. If they can get rid of Trump, they will do all the things necessary, including cooperating with Epstein. For a committed never-Trumper, opposing Donald Trump apparently accuses anything, including cultivating convicted sex criminals. According to Political Review of documents related to the now-deceased Jeffrey Epstein, Julie and Glover, that's the green show, that is her photograph. Washington political insider with a long history of opposing Donald Trump's political rise engaged with Epstein for more than a year before his death in a federal prison cell. I should then call it suicide. Of course, I'm not 100% sure about that. And most of the people, including you, I may think, maybe death by other person is not the self-inflicted death. Her defense now for her relationship is all about getting Trump. The time frame for Glover's extensive emails with Epstein was from late May 2017 to 5 months before his body was found in Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan in August of 2019. When it started, Trump was in his first term with the Republican majorities in both houses of Congress, and the Russian collusion smear was still gathering steam. The COVID nightmare was far in the future, and the never-Trumpers, including those conservatives and Republicans who sworn they would never support Trump, were looking for every bit of ammunition they could use against his expected re-election bid. Glover and Epstein were introduced by author Michael Wolff, and other anti-Trump figure who was acquainted with both. Glover told Politico in a statement, I rolled the dice when Michael Wolff asked me to bid Epstein against the backdrop of the Epstein talking publicly about Trump. By introduction, I mean from the Glover's legal statement. My interaction with Epstein were in service to their objective, not to help him in any way or improve his image. Wolff was similarly positioning me as someone smart enough for him to take advice from. At that time, Trump and Epstein has been estranged for years. Epstein has been convicted of soliciting a minor for prostitution and is a registered sex offender. There have been no indication that Trump was involved in any of Epstein's questionable activities, as there's no indication now, despite ferocious coverage of Trump from every angle in the establishment media. But as Glove explained it to Politico, she thought she might get Epstein to damage Trump politically. It came to nothing, if that was ever even true in the first place. Glover has told Politico she had 2 meetings with Epstein and 3 phone calls. The bulk of their interaction was via 31 emails, and Politico noted there are no emails between Glover and Epstein that show her soliciting information from him about Trump. The emails instead show Glover, the political consultant, using or attempting to use Epstein in a business sense for more of her clients. Well, one of her clients. One is Elon Musk. They show her chatting about political third-party presidential tickets that could defend Trump in 2020. But the biggest takeaway for the political this piece of story is not so much from Glover and Epstein might have talked about, but the way she defended the relationship as simply another effort of opposition to a man who had been elected to presidency against the expectations of the entire political establishment, both left and right. To be associated with the name Jeffrey Epstein is now particularly professionally toxic. You could just ask the Obama administration secretary, Larry Summers, or now the famous World Economic Forum president, Borg Brandy. Now the Plaskett is another figure who was famous in this Epstein scandal. It's a political left-wingers, so there's little that could be surprising there. Glover, on the other hand, is a long-time political operative from the Republican side of the field. Her resume boasts service on the staff of former President George W. Bush, former Vice President Dick Cheney, former Senator and Attorney General John Ashcroft, and Senator John McCain. Her orbit, according to Politico, includes ardent never-Trumper like Lincoln Project co-founder Rick Wilson. Put it in short, if she was any more bad for establishment Republicans, she would be the Lincoln Memorial and the Eisenhower Memorial combined. It's pretty positive as if any more related, that the only thing that matters to Trump opponents, whether they're on the left or on the right, is bringing Trump down and bringing down his supporters with him, including you, me, or all the other MAGA supporters. If you as they think, if you become their opponents or their obstacles. Next, I will talk about North Korea. North Korea has a new move. As you may know, North Korea have just launched 10 ballistic missiles on a Saturday during the U.S.-South Korea Freedom Shield drills, escalating tensions in the region as the United States and South Korea continue joint military drills designed to deter exactly this kind of communist aggression. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said the missiles were fired from the Sunan area near Pyongyang at about 1:20 p.m. local time and flew roughly 350 kilometers before splashing into the seas off the northeast coast, Reuters reported. Japanese officials said the projectiles did not land inside Japanese exclusive economic zone. Maybe the Rocket Man Kim is feeling worried or lonely because the whole world is now paying attention to the Iran. North Korea has no one afraid of them. So Kim will think that, well, maybe it's the time to fire my rockets and becoming the real rocket man. The launch came as the U.S. and South Korea forces carried out the annual Freedom Shield exercises, which both allies have reportedly described as defensive readiness drills. Of course, the Kim regime predictably lashed out, once again portraying lawful allied defense cooperation as some kind of provocation, while it continues to violate UN sanctions and threatening its neighbors with missile barrages. So let's see this Rocket Man Kim will keep firing his missiles or rockets into the sea. But of course, it's not such a big threat because this Rocket Man has do similar stuff in the past 10 years and nothing serious will happen. RTLs today is another news outlet or the agency. I will keep reading if I want to know more about what's happening inside North Korea. The next piece of news is another interesting one. 18-year-old illegal alien student charged with assault and battery after groping over a dozen girls, not one, not two, a dozen girls, in between their legs at high school in Virginia. This guy. Parents are outraged after an 18-year-old illegal alien groped over a dozen girls in between their legs at a high school in Fairfax County, Virginia. The alien, identified as Israel Flores Ortiz, but he is not coming from Israel, is turned 19 soon and is only in the 11th grade. Why have authorities allowed a 19-year-old man who is in this country illegally to sexually assault minor teen girls in the hallways at school for several months? One mother told 7 News, there's a group of about 12 individuals that have reported this assault. It's all perpetrated by a single individual who is a stranger to the girls. He just sneakily walked up behind them and put their hands in between their legs. It's not just a boxback or it's not just a busback or a butt grab. It's a grouping of a private area. It had been occurring for several months, not just days. I told WJLA reporter Nick Minnock that Israel Flores Ortiz illegally entered the U.S. in 2024 on Joe Biden's, not Trump, Joe Biden's open border invitation. Flores Ortiz was charged now with 9 counts of assault and battery, a misdemeanor only. Parents are outraged that Flores Ortiz was not charged with sexual assault. Of course, I would think that he should be indicted, he should be charged, and he should be judged as an adult for felonies, sexual assault. But why would this turn out this way? Because Virginia is now a sanctuary state after a democratic state government has been formed through elections. So if you vote for Democrats, this will happen in your communities, someone or somehow, someday or somehow. And this one is the Capitol Hill standoff. As I've just mentioned, I hope that I expect that this Safe America Act will be passed before November because there's a standoff in the Capitol Hill. Up to 50 House Republicans say Senate bills are dead on arrival until Safe America Act passes. The pressure cooker on the Capitol Hill just hit a boiling point. A grand block of House Republicans is now drawing a bright red line in the Senate. No more Senate business moves through the House until the Senate passes the Safe America Act. And according to Representative Brandon Gill and Representative Anna Paulina Luna, it is not some fringe rebellion by a handful of members. From the Republican members. It could be 40 to 50 Republicans, more than enough to bring the House floor to a grinding halt. That threat is politically devastating for the Senate establishment, which has spent weeks dragging its feet while grassroots conservatives, President Trump, and the election integrity advocates demand action on the Safe America Act. The legislation already passed by the House in February would require proof for citizenship and for the ID for federal elections. I previously stated that in the past episodes, the House passed the bill 218 to 13 with only one Democrat, Representative Harry Cruella of Texas, voting yes. Now House conservatives are making clear they're done waiting. During their Fox News appearance with Kelly McEnany, Representative Brandon Gill said that the House GOP bloc willing to block Senate legislation is already substantial. Gill said he believed there are probably 40 to 50 Republicans who will refuse to vote for any Senate-passed legislation because they recognize that election integrity is the political issue of the day and a key issue for keeping the Republican majority. He warned that Republicans will have a hard time facing voters if, after winning control of both chambers, they still fail to pass a common sense voter ID bill backed by the public. That was followed by even more direct warning from Anna Paulina Luna. Luna said House Republicans absolutely have the votes to stop Senate business code. In her words, no rules will pass. None of the legislation will get through. Luna developed another legal direct ultimatum on her own X page. Here, Luna delivered an ultimatum to the Senate Majority Leader Johnson over the voter ID fight. And Luna also posted on X that House Republicans have the votes to block Senate bills until the Safe America Act passes. She is pushing to attach the Safe America Act directly on the must-pass FISA bill, aiming to force the senator's hand. She also vowed to vote against any Senate legislation except DHS-related funding until the lawmakers act. That means here now we have two strategies against those rhinos in the Senate. First is come from President Trump. President Trump has said that he would veto all the bills, no matter coming from the House or coming from the Senate. He would not sign any one of those and veto all of those bills put on his table. And the second strategy is coming from the House. The House now, as I've just mentioned it, 40 to 50 Republicans will block any bill that's come from Senate. This strategy is now must be working because we have another piece of good news from Senator Mike Lee. Lee reveals major progress on the Safe America Act after pressure on the final thumb. It is kind of a hybrid token filibuster set to be implemented. Lee, as a Republican Senator Mike Lee, says there has been major progress in the push to pass the Safe America Act after mounting pressure on Senate leadership to move the legislation forward. In an update to supporters, the lead sponsor of the Safe America Act, said on his X page, discussion with Sun and his staff have led to meaningful progress on how the bill could be debated and brought to a vote. As I repeatedly exposed it, Johnson, the same weak need establishment hack, who mocked grassroots conservatives as, quote, played influencers, refused to nuke the filibuster and spent weeks making excuses, all kinds of excuses, why he couldn't deliver President Trump has been forced to ban. Lee confirmed the breakthrough in a news video clip, here this one, a hybrid form of the talking filibuster is now set to be implemented. That means Democrats will be forced to take the floor and defend their radical anti-voter ID agenda, possibly for hours or even days. but even so, it's such a good news. Against the bill that 85% of the American people support. If you want to know the full details, you should go to Mike Lee's X page and see this video. It's been uploaded on the March 14th. So that's why I would still think that the safe harbor will be passed before November. And Trump declares something about the Iranian military confrontation. First, holding the screen, Trump declares victories in Iran, says many countries will send warships to the Strait of Hormuz, urging China, France, Japan, South Korea, the UK, and others to send ships as the U.S. continues bombing the held out of the shoreline, as he have said. President Trump on Saturday declares victory over Iran and called for other countries to assist in a team effort to keep the Strait of Hormuz open and safe, while U.S. forces continue bombing the held of the shoreline and should take Iranian boats and ships out of the water. Of course, Trump has said numerous times that the U.S. has already won the war. In an interview on Thursday, Trump told Fox Brian Kilmeade, I don't think it's going to be long until U.S. operations in the region end, but did not specify what he meant. Asked when it will be over, Trump said, when I feel it in my bones. It's quite fake. But once again, it showed its optimism about the progress of this military operation. We have the greatest country in the history. We still do. It's also Trump is also believing that the United States of America, he said, has beaten and completely decimated Iran, both militarily, economically, and in every other way. This comes the day after U.S. forces executed the most powerful bombing raids in the history of the Middle East on Iran's Kurd island in response to Iran's threats and targeting of ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Now the president is describing Iran as totally decapitated and saying that many countries are going to send warships in the strait. On as a legal true social page. Hopefully, he said, China, France, Japan, South Korea, the UK, and the others that are affected by this artificial constraint will send ships to the area so the Hormuz Strait will no longer be a threat by a nation that has been totally decapitated. In the meantime, the United States will bombing the hell out of the shoreline and continually shooting Iranian boats and ships out of the water. One way or the other, we will soon get the Hormuz Strait open, safe, and free. And in the follow-up statement, also on the Truth Social, Trump doubled down on his proclamation of complete decimation, as well as calls for the countries of the world that receive oil through the Hormuz Strait to take care of this passage. The U.S. will also coordinate with those countries so that everything goes quickly, Trump said, smoothly and well. This should have always been a team effort, and now it will be. It will bring the world together toward harmony, security, and everlasting peace. But I would not that optimistic about this so-called team efforts. I think within at least 1 to 2 weeks, UK, France, Italy, or Japan, etc., these countries will not actively engage in the assistance to US to our military operations over Iran. At least 1 to 2 weeks. It will be the shortest time needed to be seen whether an effective adjustment of the situation can be made in this regimes and this Iran section, Iran's geographical location, the geographical area. If a threat from Iran over this territory is still existing and remains strong, I think that these countries would not join up with US as a team to solve this threat in this strait. Maybe if you are Trump's fans, you may think that I'm anti-Trump, but it's not. I've just told you what I really thought about of the current situation right now. And the next piece of the news is coming from the Colin Ruck. This piece of this is quite worth mentioning, I think, is reflecting what the man should be. Former U.S. champion Cain Velasquez shares emotional thanks to supporters after prison release for, I should say, hunting down men accused of molesting his 4-year-old son. He is a former UFC heavyweight champion. Cain Velasquez, has shared a video online with their supporters after being released from prison for attempting to confront the man accused of molesting his 4-year-old son. Velasquez, who was sentenced to 5 years release early on parole on February, shared a heartfelt message expressing gratitude for all of the support he has received and relief at being back home with his family. In February 2022, Velasquez discovered that Henry Goulart Jr., an employee at a daycare operator by Goulart's mother, has allegedly abused his young son. Velasquez pursued Goulart in an intense 11-mile high-speed chase, ramming his vehicle and firing shots that injured Goulart's stepfather. In 2024, Velasquez pleaded no contest to charges, including attempted murder and assault with a deadly weapon. Originally, prosecutors demanded 30-year to life sentence, but he was handed 5 years in March of last year, with credit of 3 years already served in pretrial detention. This fighter ultimately earned an early release through participation in rehabilitative programs. In his video statement posted on the social media X, Velasquez opened up about readjusting to his freedom. He said, "Now that it's been a couple of weeks since my release, I've had some time to kind of get back into things, get back into a normal way of life, being at home with my family, being there for my kids." He especially thanks his supporters, saying, "Your words of inspiration and encouragement constantly lift me up. Myself and the family. It's good to be out." As I've just mentioned again and again in my past episodes, if the courts, judges, or even the justice systems cannot hold up justice, citizens will hold the justice in their own hands and bring the justice by themselves through what violence, of course, violence behaviors. And this is just one of this clear case coming from this UFC fighter, Cain Velasquez. He pleaded not guilty to felon. On the other hand, how about the felon who, I should say, this piece of shit, this piece of S, who has molested his son? He is, meanwhile, this one, Goulart's case continued to crawl through the courts. He pleaded not guilty to felony lewd acts with a minor under 14 and is out on supervised release with GPS monitoring. A trial-setting hearing is set for April 15th, over 4 years after the allegations surfaced. But Velasquez's family have launched a civil lawsuit against Goulart and his relatives for their abuse and daycare negligence. So let's see how this time the return now will the justice be upheld this time. If not, maybe, and I hope he will not do so. Maybe Velasquez will once again have to do something to this piece of S. And the second last news is about Virginia. Virginia Democrats are already pushing sweeping gun control after only being in office for barely a month, 1 month. It begins now. Democrats in Virginia have been in power for barely 1 month, and they are already pushing sweeping new gun control laws. To make matters worse, they are doing this at this time when the country has seen 4 terrorist attacks. 4 terrorist attacks on the homeland in the span of just 2 weeks. God forbid the American people are able to defend themselves from all of the potential terrorists that Democrats imported into the country on Joe Biden's watch. This is all about control. Control as control mega, control of the Trump-loving or the country-loving citizen, U.S. citizen. Some pro-gun activists in the state have responded by how? As now shown in the screen, has been handing out free AR-15 magazines. You can see that how happy people are getting these free magazines. I've just think that my company should also do the same thing, handing out free magazines to all these country-loving. Okay, Spanberger and other members of her party ran as centrists on the issue of affordability. The minute they took power, they revealed themselves to be the leftists that they actually are. It is fascinating to see how long it takes for the people of Virginia to realize they were duped by these frauds. And the last piece of news is for Tucker Carlson. But I may just forgot to put the right page on the browser. Let's see. If so, I'm just holding at this screen, but it's not anymore about Virginia Democrats movement. It's about Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson says CIA has been reading his text and is preparing a criminal referral against him for alleged FARA violation. Tucker Carlson alleged in a video statement on Saturday that the Central Intelligence Agency, which is CIA, has been spying on him and is preparing a criminal referral against him for alleged violations of the Foreign Agent Registration Act or FARA. Under the law, it is a crime to act on behalf of a foreign principal without proper registration. Carlson has come under fire recently for criticism of Israel and the war in Iran, even prompting Trump to disavow him. Following the initial Operation Epic Fury strikes in Iran on February 28th, Tucker responded, calling the war absolutely disgusting and evil. Trump responded to Tucker, saying he has lost his way and is not MAGA anymore. Many of the Tucker's other critics on the right, including Fox News host Mark Levin, have attempted to claim that Tucker is paid by Carter to broadcast its opinion on Middle East conflicts. Most notably, failed presidential candidate Ted Cruz has ramped up his attack on Tucker Carlson, recently smearing him as an anti-Semite and as the single most dangerous demagogue in this country. Carlson said he was talking to people in Iran before the war, and the CIA read his text messages to prepare a criminal referral to the Department of Justice, but that he's not too worried about an actual criminal case. He said, "One, I'm not an agent of a foreign power, and unlike a lot of people commenting on U.S. policies and global affairs, I have only one loyalty, and that's the United States, and have never acted against it." I doubt it. Its interests are the only interests I cared about because I'm from here and have a lot of kids, so that's not a concern. I've also never taken money from anybody. Don't need it, don't want it, and that's clear. That's clear. And moreover, it's my job to talk to everybody all the time and try to figure out what's happening around the world. That's literally what I do for a living, and I'm not going to stop doing that, nor should I. I don't think. I'm also the American. I can talk to anybody. I have no secrets to divulge. So legally, I think the case is ludicrous, and I doubt it will even become a case. And he says there are some people who are mad at me for my views about Israel, and these people are most of them come from MAGA or some of the Democrats, and they may be feeling a criminal referral to justify warring, or as part of a humiliation and intimidation campaign, the assistance of which may be leaked to the media in the near future. None of this, in my judgment, as of right now, is a huge threat to me. So Dr. Carlson said, I'm not making this video to complain about it or whine or ask you to send me money because I'm under attack. I'm saying it because it's true. And you should know that your own government is doing, and you should know that the stakes are, and you should know that a lot of what happens in this country that affects outcomes happens behind the scenes. Some of it is legal, some of it is not, including what I'm describing now, but it's an effect. Why I've spent several minutes to quote Tucker Carlson's statement, because I've given him a chance to explain himself. But I'm not 100% believe in him. I think that he is now playing as a victim, drawing our attention to him, or he's just crying wolves. I don't think CIA is investigating him. I don't think he will be indicted or charged by the Department of Justice, and I don't think that President Trump's government or White House would try to hurt him. No, I don't think so. And 到呢度轉翻廣東話。咁就係咧已經講晒，就係今日原本準備講嘅新聞噶啦。不過最後尾咧，對 Tucker Carlson 呢條片咧，我就冇準備好。咁到示範一次咧，就係咧，其實我啲甩漏嘅就係因為可能就我唔係太慣全程英文啊，而且就係咧。今日個新聞其實數量都唔多，而且有部分新聞都唔係咧，我自己就係諗住就係中意要講嘅一啲嘅事情。不過如果係報時事嘅話，其實我自己冇得自己調教啊嘛，即係冇話自己創造啲新聞出嚟，即係我唔係一啲嘅社交媒體，我係創造一啲咧就係呢啲嘅圖片，然之後就做一啲 meme 圖，即係根本嗰幅圖咧都唔係講緊嗰件事嘅，做一個 meme 圖，然之後打幾個字，然之後咧就話呢件事發生咗，我唔可以啊。咁啊，所以就係今日啲新聞都唔係我所好啦，但係我自己覺得就係當我如果一單到一單新聞嗰個連接上邊咧，我啲嘅自然咁樣，但係其實我當我講用嗰個廣東話講嗰陣時，其實都係間不時會表現到呢個情況出現㗎。呢一樣嘢並不單止就係呢個嘅英文有咩問題咁啊，只不過就係我平時嗰個嘅轉接上邊，即係硬踢上邊咧，都係有啲嘅困難。不過呢一樣嘢就唔係我淨係得我係咁㗎，其實就係好多廣東話嘅一啲嘅電台，即使電台主持都係會有呢個問題出現。但係就起碼我一入到嘅轉翻在呢個嘅嗰單新聞自己呢個嘅內容上邊，有啲英文咧都係相對流暢。作為一睇都係大家一樣嘢。每逢講每一單新聞入邊嗰個內容咧，我唔係照稿讀嘅，你唔好以為我有稿喺心冇嘅，全程都有個腦咧就係呢個嘅構思出嚟，然之後咧即時係要講出嚟。有部分啲引述都係例如頭先我講翻呢個 Tucker Carlson 嘅一啲嘅 statement， 或者佢自己所講啲咩，梗係我全程就睇住嚟讀啦。但係除此之外咧，其實有入邊啲內容我都係冇稿讀，即係話我即時嚟做。所以其實我如果係要做一個英文節目咧，我係能夠做得到，而且就係起碼美國人都係明啦，你講英文人都係明嘅。好，咁啊就係呢度咧，就係去到呢度就係暫時係咁多未住嘅。咁我都係睇翻 chat room 狀況啦。咁因為咁樣幾趕客咧，星期日咧其實應該多啲人會睇嘅節目，但係咧搞到呢個8個人睇直播，點解？就係因為轉咗做英文。Jason 啦，咁啊再一次咧就係同大家 say 下 hi 啊 ，Felix 啊，Patty Young 啊，娃娃 Jason 你好 ，Katie 你好啊，從來咧就係勸交當然演過當事人嘅係。但係嗰件事咧幾得意㗎，嗰陣時咧就係呢個我再喺個嘅華語英文嗰邊就完啦，用講翻廣東話嚟講咧，其實就係阿侵咧喺嗰節嘅節目咧就係講得比較詳細啲，又簡短少少，就係佢搭我唔記得咗點解係搭 lift，嗰陣時嗰個環境係搭 lift 嘅，而嗰陣時 Kobe Bryant 咧就係呢個初成名冇幾耐，嗰陣時打咗呢個 Lakers 呢一個LA Lakers 冇幾耐嘅一個球員嘅啫。應該就係1-2年度啦，但係已經係呢一個嘅好點話嶄露頭角，即係呢個表現好出眾，好多人留意佢啦，即係個名咧都有啲開始有啲響。而到翻轉頭咧就另外嗰位咧就已經係有翻咁上下呢個嘅年歲 Williams， 已翻咁上下呢個嘅年歲啦，咁啊就係有翻咗哥們弟物同埋暴躁。咁啊入 lift Williams 咧首先同呢 Kobe Bryant 咧就係呢個 say hi 先咁樣打呢個打招呼，但係呢個 Kobe 咧就可能睇唔起呢個老鬼啊嘛，就是但答佢一句或者冇回應，即係冇呢一個嘅say 翻 hi。咁喺呢個過程之中咧就得罪咗老鬼，呢個老鬼 Williams 咧就想咧就開波打呢個 Kobe Bryant 就喺呢個 lift 入邊。咁喺部 lift 同一時間咧就另外一個3個人，第3個人就係呢個特朗普見到呢個狀況即時咧就係呢一個撳住 Williams 就咪叫你唔好出手喎，咁我呢度打交冇得搞嘢喎。咁啊最後尾就停止咗呢件事。就係呢一個嘅起碼就你而家見到 Kobe Bryant 咧，又或者你 Williams 嘅一啲嘅家屬啊或者朋友親戚朋友咧，都冇講啲説話嚟到反特朗普，就係話冇發生過呢件事，話呢件事係假嘅。咁應該呢件事咧係真嘅。咁啊仲有就係特朗普都係據翻我睇翻啲人其他人對佢描述啊，或者佢事發自己成機呢個接受訪問或者喺自主入邊咧，都係講過類似嘅嘢。就係咧佢面對呢個狀況，通常做呢個中間人勸交者。呢一件事咧，可能就係反映咗一個特徵，就係話當然咧，特朗普覺得咁而家做咗總統啦，咁就係如果佢攻擊邊個國家，佢要做嘅都要做，但係同一時間咧，佢又都俾機會咧，俾各方就係呢個從和平手段嚟解決呢一樣嘢，而且咧佢做中間人咧都翻唔上呢個嘅效率啊。 或者一個嘅成功率啦，咁所以去到咧佢管治一個國家，面對嘅世界紛爭，佢可以咧就係攻擊呢一個嘅任何一方，但係同一時間佢亦都想咧，其實一開始就係用一個和平手段咧嚟到搞掂件事嘅，大家唔好打交，嗰件事都幾特別嘅。我直覺都係相信特朗普嘅為人啦，應該唔會講大話嘅，應該唔會講大話。阿爸話咧，我好似咧就喺公司開緊會咁，你公司就係啲個老外比較多啊，係咪啊？大家都講緊英文。我都係再一次講啦，其實一去到呢個新聞內容入邊咧，其實就係全部都冇稿嘅，即係呢個嘅我同廣東話都一樣嘅。可能平時可能有啲嘅新手嘅人啊，可能入到入嚟呢個即係新手即係新嘅網友啊，入到入嚟嗰啲個嘅 trip 可能路過一睇一睇呢個節目，都會覺得就係話你嗰個都話係咪有稿俾你睇㗎，照住嚟讀㗎咁嘅樣，其實係冇嘅。一樣都係冇，除咗開始呢一個嘅 channel 早期嗰啲嘅節目專講奇現象就有，咁啊但係因為咧就係嗰啲即係講專門嘅個特殊嘅個案或者一啲嘅事情嘅話咧，我想更加精確、更加詳細仔細，每一句咧差唔多每一句都係有用嘅資訊喺入邊，或者表達一個有用嘅邏輯。咁所以去到嗰度就係的而且確係寫稿，而嗰個稿件都好長啊，寫完之後亦都冇再訓練自己一次讀一次，咁所以咧就係照讀嘅話就有啲甩咳嘅。我咁講啦，但係就未必都係咁，應該都唔會咁做啦。假如將來我又轉翻去嗰個嘅channel。嘅呢個嘅主題就講翻奇現象嘅話，我都係會再一次咁樣做嘅，因為就係如果我唔係想每一句説話都係有一甩即係呢個嘅唔係點講精確啲個邏輯精確啲準確啲流程咧，就係呢個嘅我覺得就係呢個嘅一個思想嘅個流程咧跟翻自己原本嗰個準備嗰個方向或者嗰個結構嘅話，其實就係要用稿啊，因為用稿照讀而咧稿夠，如果你個稿係好長嘅話咧，你照住嚟到就梗係就唔多流暢，特別就係呢個書面語，然之後過翻個廣東話口語嘅話，就更加咧好似好生硬咁。但係嗰啲係以前嘅節目係 informative， 即係呢個資訊性為主，就唔係娛樂性咧。所以就係點解你覺得悶？但係咧，如果係真係想用嚟就係對一啲嘅類別嘅奇現象，咁啊從某一個個案嘅角度嚟到咧就係了解嘅話，其實就係幾有用嘅。入邊就係每一分鐘，即係唔好講得咁誇張，每一句咧，每一分鐘或者每2分鐘咧，其實都係有用資訊喺入邊，就俾你咧能夠消化得到。不過做以前嗰個模式咧，比較一個困難啲。即使我而家即時就好似頭先咁，即時用英文講咧，我都係一個嘅冇乜大壓力嘅，唔係冇乜大冇乜壓力。好呢一個嘅隨心，而且就係即時咧能夠講得出口。反而咧就係呢個一講翻奇現象嗰啲研究或者個案咧，就係呢一個嘅係寫稿啊嗰啲一個嘅嘥時間咧，而家照讀咧亦都係呢個困難。反而就係呢個嘅支持嘅付出係會更加大。等我睇下同學先 Kitty 話就哈馬斯收咗多錢咧，就而家扮晒嘢係，但係而家頭先解釋過，佢唔係扮嘢，因為就係一個嘅佢唔想伊朗死。如果佢繼續叫伊朗打，而呢個結果對於伊朗嘅咧就係收咗皮，咁而家呢個嘅政制呢個神權制度，而之後邊一親咗呢一個嘅美國嘅話，即係好似而家委內瑞拉咁咧，咁佢恐懼咧就係之後。喺嗰個嘅政治嗰個嘅系統或政治本質變咗質啊嘅一個新伊朗政府咧，唔再支持哈馬斯喺財政上邊，所以咧就係其實佢驚嘅。佢驚咧就係咧哈馬斯係驚咧，就係正如畫面而家 hold 住呢度，哈馬斯係驚咧之後如果呢個嘅伊朗政府而家唔投降，咁而咧繼續俾人呢個美軍打巢，真係打巢咗佢。嗱，如果係投降或者呢個嘅妥協嘅話，都仲可能保住某程度嗰個嘅神權嘅政治模式，可能都會依然咧就係呢個嘅某程度上地下或者地上去津貼咧就係呢啲嘅代理人，咁只不過冇以前咁大程度，咁損失咧都仲係有限。但係如果真係呢個嘅完全被 totally 打巢啊，俾呢個美軍嘅話咧，可能隨時你應該1分1毫咧都冇埋個資助，咁就係大 Q 鑊啦。呢個係佢嘅 lifeline， 頭先有啲英文咁講啦 ，lifeline 佢嘅生命線嚟嘅。如果冇咗嘅話咧，咁哈馬斯仲可以問邊個國家嚟攞錢使咧？但俄羅斯都唔會俾你噶啦，中國更加都唔會，中國就係唔習慣地咧，就係喺呢個中東上邊隔咁遠距離，就係俾錢嚟資助呢啲嘅 proxies 即係呢啲嘅代理人。 習慣上咧都係呢個伊朗，而且伊朗咧都係能夠出到一嚿錢，土耳其都唔會做呢啲嘢嘅。其他咩匈牙利更加唔會諗啦，係咪？就佢已經近乎對歐洲國家，中亞世界嗰啲都冇呢個財力啦，亦都唔想呢個嘅調起美國。近期中亞世界國家都係有唔少係傾向於就係支持特朗普嘅添。再到非洲咪亦都唔使諗啦，呢個嘅埃及亦都唔會做，都唔會再搞呢啲嘅事情。所以就真係唯一係呢個伊朗咯。所以哈馬斯係真心驚嘅，就唔係呢個嘅係就唔係呢個嘅有啲唔係扮嘢，而係佢真係驚。佢真係仲係想保住自己嗰條水喉啊！我哋嘅名句啊就係先生唔該唔好打交。但係呢個特朗普咧係個效力咧就係比起一啲嘅柳記更加好嘅。南韓咧要快啲，要用呢個薩滿咧去叫大神保佑佢哋。冇乜事嘅。咁我自己頭先咁講咧，其實就我唔相信咧，就係呢個北韓係會個呢個嘅問題，或者搞呢啲嘅導彈所謂測試或者係呢個試射係會搞出咩嘅大程度嘅，只不過就係佢費事俾呢個嘅事情咧，就呢一個大家去忽略咗北韓。其實北韓咧搞呢啲嘅導彈或者搞呢啲導彈試射或者所謂搞核武咧，到最終只不過咧就係一個嘅吸引大家注意嘅啫。能夠吸引大家注意嘅話咧，咁咧就係呢一個嘅大家覺得佢有威脅咧，自然咧就要呢一個嘅對佢妥協啊，或者同佢傾啊，或者呢個嘅能夠出一個手段嚟到同中國顯示就話你唔好忽視我，唔好忽略我啊！喺呢個區域上邊，我依然保存呢一個影響能力㗎。咁如果係有影響能力嘅話，自然就係一個嘅要巴結佢啦，亦都係可能支持佢啦。咁嘅話，咪繼續能夠攤大手板，問中國揾各式各樣嘅援助咯。咁啊，所以咧就係佢定期必須去做，而且就係亦都費事俾而家啲人咧就忽視或者忽略咗佢，就話咦呢一個嘅唔存在咯噃，或者大家要關顧伊朗嗰邊咯噃。咁所以就預咗，我都好多嘅軍評界人都預咗，佢必然咧，即使唔係趁住呢一次啊，南韓同美國嘅呢個 military drills 都係咧就係呢個嘅差唔多時間，都係會咧就撳掣噶啦，嚟到射一射噶啦。好似啲男人咁啊，989你射一射身體先好啲。Getty 咧就話其實啲白咗女人咧個個都要咧就檢驗下咧就係檢驗下啲受害人嘅經歷。啱嘅，咁啊就係而且就其實應該強迫佢啊，應該要倒翻，如果倒翻轉頭用翻傳統左派嗰個教學思維嘅話，應該喺課堂上邊咧就係你開一班，咁然之後咧強迫佢哋咧就係一個嘅睇下佢哋咧就支持嘅一啲嘅政策或者一啲嘅價值觀嘅發展係點樣咧就害到其他人啊，包括呢個細路仔啊、女人啊、男人啊、老年人啊、軍人啊等等嘅一啲嘅狀況，強迫佢哋學習先好。ID Reader 你好啊，阿 Trump 咧就要呢個 GG 料做厭仔。Tucker 你講 Tucker 我真係講睇咗阿 Trump。Tucker 要 GG 料做，而家有唔少人咧越嚟越多人攻擊阿 Tucker Carlson。以前咧就係佢仲喺霍士新聞台做嗰陣時咧，就係正常冇咩問題。但係其實我而家就係覺得佢而家所做嘅嘢，正如頭先英文所講啦，我覺得佢喺呢個嘅係狼來了啦，又或者呢個嘅扮受害人啦，要吸引大家注意力嘅啫。佢個個都曾經唔止做過一次呢啲嘅事情嘅，但係你話如果只不過一啲其他嘅 mega 人士唔妥佢，然之後就表達就係話對佢一啲嘅滋擾啊、恐嚇啊、人身攻擊啊等等咧，我唔覺得呢一樣嘢係出奇，應該就係會添，而且係越嚟越多。咁啊就係呢個開直播之前，我曾經睇到幅圖添，就係將呢個 Tucker Carlson 咧嗰個人像咧就換咗一隻古巴一個嘅解放裝啊。或者着咧就古巴以前咧卡斯特頭嗰個年代咧嗰啲嘅士兵咧嗰個軍服嚟到嘲笑佢。但係去到而家特朗普政府咧就係 CIA 啊，佢唔係話呢個嘅 FBI 喎，係 CIA 中央情報局喎，嚟到去查佢究竟係唔係有同外國勢力聯繫，然之後美國就係呢個嘅做外國嘅代理人去散播一個嘅影響力咧。呢一樣嘢如果咁做緊係犯法嘅，亦都冇宣稱你係一個嘅 foreign agent 啊嘛。但係咧我覺得特朗普如果我直覺上面覺得特朗普之前對住 Tucker Carlson 嗰個嘅2-3次嘅回應，嗰個係用詞同埋態度咧，我覺得特朗普政府喺白宮係唔係對佢 Tucker Carlson 有好大嘅敵意。而就係如果倒翻轉頭，如果就係而家 Tucker Carlson 呢個表現就已經係會觸發到特朗普嘅白宮覺得咧，就係佢唔知俾外國邊個國家嚟，俄羅斯又好、中國又好或者伊朗都好嚟到呢個受咗利益而操控咗，變咗一個 paid influencers， 即係你左派人士經常攻擊咧右派人士，你呢個嘅立場其實係 paid influencers 呢個字亦都係近期呢個 Johnson 咧，亦都係鬧過我哋啲 MAGA 人士嘅話咧，如果係咁嘅話，咁啊之前特朗普係咪應該用翻 CIA 嚟去查呢一個嘅馬斯克咧？係咪馬斯克就係一個嘅之前對特朗普嗰個批評，甚至乎嗰個爭拗咧，或者呢個嘅得閒咧989呢個馬斯克有呢一個嘅講一兩句説話嚟到邀潤下特朗普或者串下特朗普咧，咁嘅話就馬斯克就係更加似係喎，咁咧就係其實之前 CIA 係咪有查過馬斯克咧？應該都冇啩，係咪啊？咁所以對住馬斯克都冇嘅話，對住 Tucker Carlson 咧就應該都唔會用呢個招數。而且就係呢一個嘅，而家佢係咪真係有呢個影響力咧 ？Tucker Carlson 嗱佢收視上邊都唔錯，雖然個畫面都再一次 sorry 冇一個準備到呢一個嘅佢嘅 X page， 你或者去一個嘅佢專有個網頁嘅 Tucker Carlson Show 或者 Tucker Carlson Network 咁 TCN 簡稱 TCN 咁咧就應該揾到嗰個嘅 view 數一般嚟講平均都唔少啊，有上一個知名度。但係你話佢講嘅嘢係咪有呢個嘅 view 數高，係咪代表佢講嘅嘢就係全盤多數睇佢嘅人都會相信？其實就唔係，倒翻轉頭嘅。我覺得而家倒翻轉頭，多數啲人咧就上個台睇下咧，就每一集咧會唔會就再鬧特朗普啊？會唔會再鬧我哋 MAGA 陣營啊？會唔會講啲嘢咧支持翻呢個伊朗或者俄羅斯啊咁樣嘅啫？咁啊，所以就話CIA 會真係驚嗰啲説話對有個影響到美國分化美國咧，咁啊亦都未必嘅。所以我自己覺得唔太信咯，即係唔太信呢一個嘅佢自己講就話佢 CIA 查咯。不過好多呢啲人都係咁講嘅。之前咧就係 Candace Owens 都係就係話啲俾 CIA 查啊，或者俾呢個嘅法國嘅馬龍出，因為搞佢老婆啊嘛。呢個 Candace Owens 就係話不停咁話佢老婆咧就係呢個嘅係男人扮出嚟嘅，男人變性就變咗女人。咁啊，所以咧呢個 Candace Owens 話咧就係呢個嘅馬克龍咧呢一個嘅難以忍受啊，就係呢個嘅派咗呢個嘅僱用啲特種部隊嘅士兵嚟到越洋去到美國嗰度，諗住咧就暗殺呢個 Candace Owens， 自己 Candace Owens 自己講嘅。有似類似係咁咯，即係我又唔信咯。Tucker Carlson 講啲嘢我又係唔信咯。都係為咗嗰個收視，為咗 view 數，為咗吸引人嘅注意力咧，佢哋都講啲嘢都幾誇張嘅。就唔似係我啊嘛，即係我用翻我做例子咧。如果我係佢哋嘅話咧，我對上嗰次喺一個嘅呢一個嘅南美洲啊嗰次嘅經歷咧。我哋會咧就大講特講噶，就呢個分開10集，好似你鋸外星人咧，即係以前亞視嗰陣時，我喺美國啦，嗰陣時呢個嘅 Church 呢一個嘅86年尾咁啊就係啦，即係嗰陣時呢個嘅今日睇真啲啊嘛，我睇翻錄影帶嘅，首先梗係就係揾翻原，因為呢件事喺美國流出，梗係揾翻原餅嗰餅錄影帶嗰個鋸外星人條片嚟睇，而家睇翻今日睇真啲點樣播，咁就分開10集，我仲記得，咁啊我自己如果呢個嘅好似 Tucker Carlson 或者Candace Owens 咁咧，就將自己經歷分開10集，咁然之後再收費嘅，就係之後咧就係呢個嘅慢慢好仔細咁樣講，咁樣，但係其實冇啊。即使就係有一集嘅交代，其實都好簡單，去講咗就算。所以我加埋自己嗰個嘅呢啲嘅諗法咯，咁我就係覺得就似係咧，就係一個嘅為咗收視嗰啲説話出嚟啦。仲有冇其他嘅網友入嚟或者係留言咧？啲 Getty 或者做驗仔咧就要兜下嘅。OK，Felix 再一次 say hi 啊。WHS 你好 ，Dora Roy 你好啊。咁啊今日呢集咧就試咗，咁啊就因為英文係咪算啦？就係一個嘅還咗自己之前咧有一個古怪諗法，一個心願啦。千祈大家唔好誤會，就係一個網友 send 封 email 鬧我幾句之後咧，我就證明自己乜乜，咁就唔係嘅，只不過佢倒翻出嚟提醒我就係話係喎，我可以試下做一集咁樣樣模式啊，咁啊睇下我自己會唔會生活咗呢個嘅，或者呢個嘅生活喺香港時間實在太長啦，咪呢個嘅令我自己英語能力咧有所呢個嘅削弱，咁有少少啊，特別多咗好多次就係新聞與新聞之間轉接上硬 text 上面咧，有啲係奇怪，即係有啲唔流暢，但係除此之外咧，就每逢講翻新聞入邊嘅內容咧，其實我自己都係覺得唔錯啊，冇問題咩，即使一啲複雜 嘅句子，我自己都可以組織出嚟。就都係再講一次，唔係靠稿，唔係睇稿㗎，全冇嘅。倒翻轉頭，你問下你咪試下咯。如果你唔信呢個嘅難度啊，翻上啦嘛，你可以試下。咁除咗你係一個嘅我唔係 native 啊，咁即係因為我8歲先入美國，但係如果你有英語能力，就喺當地生活啦，都已經係變咗你自己嗰個嘅母語或者係母語其中一種嘅話咧，其實就係應該係有呢個説話嘅呢個流暢度或者速度。好，咁到呢度咧就係咁，亦都唔好覺得我講得太快啊，其實就唔係嘅，反而我可以講得仲快啲都仲得。有陣時我特登提翻自己就係講英文嗰陣時冇講得咁快添，就好似講呢個不嬲我講廣東話嗰個問題講得太快。英文嗰方面我反而就個仲可以調節到一啲。好，咁到呢度咧就係咁多，咁咧就係呢個唯獨試一次嘅咋，就唔會再嚟噶啦，費事影響呢個收視。下一次咁就係呢一個嘅直播時間就係星期2，因為星期1咧例行休息日子。不過補多兩句啊，呢一個嘅美以伊啊，呢一個個軍事衝突，我自己覺得都係會打多呢兩個星期，但係都係嗰句一個月咧就係呢個嘅係一個嘅心理，第一個重大心理關口過得到嘅過咗嘅話，其實就係唔知會維持幾耐。我自己可能呢個嘅再下一個月咯，又係另外一個嘅一條線。我自己都係有一個嘅傾向，就認為特朗普係唔會過一個月。而且就係我心入邊都我諗佢應該會明白一樣，就話越嚟越難同MAGA 陣營嘅人，包括我哋呢一班咧，就交代就話點解係要搞咁耐。個目標如果就係呢個嘅你係要對方係要妥協嘅話，可能就係都係要長時間，而咧你個 engagement 嘅時間太長嘅話咧，所構成嘅呢個嘅成本啊、死傷等等咧都會高得。不過我想提一提大家，咁就近期都有啲負面新聞，即係例如嗰架嘅頭先有英文嗰陣時都有講過，嗰架嘅入油嗰個運呢個點解加油機墜落，死多咗6個嘅呢個嘅機員，咧加埋7個加6個嘅原本嗰一個嘅如果唔係計算喺戰鬥嘅呢個任務之中嘅話，其實嗰6個未必係一個嘅傷亡。但係我假如係計埋佢嘅話，其實都係10零個，暫時嚟睇咧。同埋如果你當完一個係全面戰爭嘅話，其實佢個傷亡數字咧係好低。咁就近期你可能焦點就係呢個嘅，比起一啲嘅傳媒嘅過度集中去呢個渲染啦，你會覺得話死10幾人已經好高，但係唔知大家知唔知啊？其實如果冇記錯數字嘅話，就係第一次海灣戰爭咧，嗰個嘅美軍嘅人員嘅嗰個死亡啦，未計傷啊，即係嗰啲咩中東唔係中東呼吸綜合症係咪？即係個海灣綜合症唔計嗰啲先啦，死亡人數咧200零人。250幾人嘅，如果冇記錯。而家咧個數字係遠遠低過就係第一次嘅海灣戰爭，而第一次海灣戰爭嗰個嘅壓倒性嘅優勢，或者嗰個嘅優勢獲得嘅速度啊，就係甚至乎可能仲快過咧而家對住伊朗添。但係都係死咗就200幾人嘅，整體上面第一次海灣戰爭。所以就係其實嗰個數字唔嚴重。你話冇咗一架嘅 straddle tanker， 即係冇咗一架嘅加油機，亦都唔係算係即係而家冇咗一架，仲有就係有單新聞應該係嚟自我冇記錯，都係 New York Times 嘅，又或者呢個 Washington Post 就係話聲稱咧有5至6部嘅呢個嘅加油機咧喺呢個伊拉克啊遇襲啊，咁而咧就係呢一個嘅有破壞，但係就冇被毀滅㗎，就係應該如果個消息理解冇錯咧，佢復收翻嘅話，就喺呢個嘅運作翻，即係咧而都可以咧就係呢個嘅put in operations。如果計算翻，其實以我所知啊。大概如果係 mission ready 呢個 combat ready 或者 mission ready， 即係能夠投入去戰爭作為呢一個實際使用嘅美國嘅呢一款嘅 KC-135，記其他款式喎，我仲未記其他款式㗎。KC-135呢款 straddle tanker 其實應該嗰個嘅所有嘅數字大概250零部，至咧就290幾部。我呢個嘅推到去一個俾個折扣啦，200部啦，而就係呢200部入邊咧，呢個總數200部。唔係，我頭先講錯，就係總數200零部。而咧就係呢個嘅 mission ready 或者 combat ready 嘅呢啲嘅機種咧，根據過往嚟自國會嗰啲嘅報告公開嘅統計數字咧，就應該大概70%。咁就係200假設200啦，咁200乘呢個嘅0.7或者0.7咧，大概就係一個嘅100零部度啦，就係呢個84部咯。咁所以你話而家就係冇咗呢個嘅有令損失咗1部，然之後有5至6部唔能夠運咗，其實就唔係食到入肉嘅。 但係如果維持得耐啲嘅話，個損失梗係會多啲咯。咁所以如果計翻呢一樣嘢，咁仲有就係人員嘅死亡啦。仲有另外一樣，反而另外一樣嘢都係個問題，就係嗰個彈藥嘅消耗。對住伊朗咧，其實就因為伊朗主要係用呢個空襲，並唔係再加埋呢個，即係唔係複合型戰爭，唔係再加埋呢個嘅地面部隊嘅話，其實就純粹靠空襲嗰個嘅彈藥嘅消耗速度好快，而且近幾年都係供應咗唔少嘅呢啲嘅彈藥，就係俾咗烏克蘭嗰邊咧，其實就係可能喺呢個嘅1個2個星期之內，個消耗嘅呢個嘅呢啲嘅彈藥，特別呢啲精準導彈咧，可能就係呢個嘅消耗咗3-4年或者以上嘅一個嘅美國嘅呢啲嘅彈藥嘅生產量。呢一樣嘢就呢一個係有好處亦都有風險嘅。好處就係一個風險就係會減少咗呢一個嘅庫存量啦。之後如果世界發生嘅緊急嘅事項嘅話，美國可能未必足夠咁能夠咧就係應付一個嘅區域性大規模正規嘅戰爭，就唔似而家呢一刻咧做嘅軍事行動。咁但係個好處就係咩？好處就係再俾一個嘅壓力俾呢啲嘅國內無論就係個政府啊，或者國會啊，咁就係呢一個嘅或者一個嘅呢啲嘅軍工商啊。政府嘅國會就係呢個逼佢哋要願意去俾更加多錢，就係你去呢一個嘅建立翻自己武器庫啦。即係呢個嘅多啲庫存啊。而呢個嘅公司自己亦都係有所得益，同埋對 lobbying powers 都比較大啲，就話喂，你好俾多啲錢俾我哋啊，生產多啲彈藥啊。如果唔係咧，唔夠儲存喎。之後咧嗰個嘅唔夠用嘅話，對住例如假如中國要呢一個嘅合情合理地武統台灣，咁美國咧就唔夠嘢，唔夠呢個彈藥用啦咁樣。呢一個係另外一個嘅問題。仲有其他啲人嘅經濟方面都大家明白啦，呢一個嘅衝突。所以就其實我都係最終都係嗰樣嘢，係咪多過1個月？呢個咧真係要大家都係好關呢個嘅顧及同埋關切呢一點。暫時都係咁樣樣啦。新嘅進展都唔係話真係咁多喺呢個嘅衝突上邊。仲有一樣嘢就係回應翻琴日啦，琴日有報就係話咧，呢個攻擊呢個島係唔係咧就係呢個嘅有攻擊到啲石油設施。正如我頭先英文嗰邊都有講過，就係呢個島咧其實90%呢個島咧係主要係負責，如果即係呢個嘅伊朗嘅時候就係 exporting， 其實仲有一樣嘢 importing 咧，呢一個咧都係緊要。我自己寫篇文都係咁講，就係話大家唔好以為伊朗咧自己有好多呢個原油嘅呢個嘅輸出，即係 crude oil 原油，即係未經過提煉，佢自己就好多有用，其實唔係。因為佢自己嘅國家咧，嗰個經濟唔穩定嘅狀況啦，仲有就係經常被呢一個嘅禁制啦，而且就係嗰個貪污嘅情況亦都有咁高，就正如之前委內瑞拉。所以有唔少咧嗰啲原油開咗出嚟咧，其實佢冇自己嘅提煉能力嘅，有呢個嘅幾明顯嘅一個嘅部分嘅一個嘅燃料嘅使用咧，倒翻轉頭咧係靠輸入嘅。咁所以咧，呢一個嘅島並不單止一個重要性，就係呢個對外嘅輸出，亦都係包括係輸入。而對呢個島進行一個軍事襲擊，我自己點解話呢個對同有啲嘅網友呢一個嘅大家所收到消息唔同，就係因為咧，我係有一啲嘅有人提供俾我一啲比較準確同埋即時嘅一啲嘅衛星圖片，但係都唔方便公開，因為嗰啲衛星圖片係需要俾錢。第一、第二就係我喺嗰個係一個嘅sensitive 嘅 info。但佢係咪 classified 啦？一直都即係 classified 嘅意思就係話唔係即係你可能覺得喂 classified 唔一定係 secret， 唔係 classified 即係話 classification 即係被機密化咗，而機密化咗唔同嘅層級噶嘛。OK， 嗰個唔係呢個 classified， 唔係俾機密化嘅一個資訊，但係一個敏感資訊 sensitive 嘅 info 就唔方便一個嘅喺而家畫面公開啊。而我睇過，而且都係同一時間亦都係有錢咧嚟到呢一個嘅 access to， 即係能夠睇得到。我所睇到嘅就係呢個軍襲並不單止就係一個純粹係攻擊一啲嘅武器啊，機住喺個島上嘅武器機場等等，仲有亦都係一啲嘅油管啊，石油設施都係同時被破壞。我相信可能就係都係一個美軍嗰邊唔直接承認，而呢度嗰邊唔承認緊嘅，費事影響到就係其他嗰啲嘅國，即係費事影響到自己嗰個嘅形象啦。咁就係被承認話呢個島嗰啲嘅石油設施都被轟炸，國內外都唔會想講呢一樣嘢，而美國方面都係呢一個嘅冚住，暫時唔想講出嚟嘅原，就唔公開佢呢個嘅直接高調地去講出嚟嘅原因咧。其實就係可能都係俾啲面子同埋俾啲時間俾呢度嗰方面咧嚟到去睇下貴啊，特別喺呢個封鎖海峽上邊。 正如特朗普所講就話，我可以打你㗎，但係選擇唔打你。但係咧，其實係有咧就對呢個目標進行過呢個破壞，起碼見到呢個破壞嘅情況出現。但係呢一個嘅呢啲嘅圖啊，並唔係咧就係呢個嘅個個人都睇得到啦，或者係願意公開曾經話自己係睇過。仲有就係亦都唔係一個主流嘅一個新聞消息啊呢一樣嘢。但係我見到有啲嘅軍評界人士咧，就喺呢啲嘅討論區咧都係有提及到呢一點。咁啊，所以對嗰個島咧，其實有一定嘅破壞喺度。咁啊，仲未計以色列其實對住伊朗嗰啲嘅其他石油設施都冇停止過呢個空襲嘅，就係過去呢一兩日都係冇嘅。呢一步都係嗰句嘅要做嘅，而且就係做得遲咗啲。應該一開始咧，如果呢一個軍力能夠能夠做得到啊，同時同一步都應該要攻擊埋伊朗呢啲嘅能源設施嘅。咁啊，睇下呢一樣嘢會唔會繼續咧就 keep 住進行，同埋呢個嘅效率究竟係點？雖然邏輯上邊咧，我認為係應該能夠停到伊朗嗰個嘅呢啲個嘅軍事機器，即係成個嘅呢個軍隊機器，但係個實際嘅效用究竟係點咧？係唔係你攻擊咗破壞咗呢啲設施之後，就即時能夠停止到伊朗嘅呢個嘅軍方嘅啲嘅軍事行動咧？咁啊，就即係睇一睇呢一樣嘢。我都唔係話咁順，都開始話就唔係話即時嘅，因為起碼每一個嘅軍事嘅單位都應該自己嘅手上邊有儲存咗一啲少量或者需要應急嘅一啲嘅石油喺手嘅，應該都會係咁嘅。但係喺呢個嘅遠少少係咪能夠令迫使到呢一個嘅伊朗係會妥協咧？咁啊，就係睇一睇嗰個之後情況發展係點。好，喺呢度係補充翻多一兩句咧，講廣東話就係咧講翻就係呢個嘅美爾伊嘅呢個國家事態嘅狀況，應該到呢度真係咁多啦。冇乜其他，應該有其他嘢需要有補充。仲有一樣嘢，咁提一提咧，就係話其實本來維羅諗住係出嚟見一面嘅。咁啊！但係既然上一集都已經係直播嗰時都應該琴日啊，直播嗰時都係講過話，咁啊今日都講埋都係可以嘅。就係其實咧嚟緊28號咁咧，就係我哋原本係諗住幾個網友喺 Streamer 度嗰個觀眾群嗰個嘅群組嗰度咧，網友群組嗰度啊就係傾嘅。咁啊就係嚟緊28號啊，呢一個月28號就係去咧呢個鑽石山嘅係咪鑽石山啊？係啊，我以為彩虹其實都近彩虹，不過講到個集名話你點解港鐵就叫做鑽石山咧，都應該係鑽石山嚟嘅。鑽石山咁咧就係呢一個志蓮淨苑入邊嘅一間餐廳叫做志蓮素齋，或者嗰度嗰舊建築物叫做龍門樓啦。其實就係呢個餐廳食肆個名叫做志蓮素齋，就喺嗰度食齋啊，食一齋齋菜。就應該都唔會貴得去邊嘅，雖然就係呢個嘅係比較精緻啲嘅一啲嘅素菜。但係就始終比肉咧係會平啲嘅，都應該唔會太貴。就係大家就歡迎咧，就係呢個嘅都，如果你想出席嘅話，咁就係呢個聯絡我啦，或者你睇下可唔可以聯絡其他網友，等我俾我知啊。咁就睇下可唔可以加多幾位咯。如果你想嚟嘅話，應該或者得啩。我唔肯定，但係如果兩個應該得嘅，即係話例如我都唔記得咗我哋原本約咗幾多位，即係例如呢一個嘅係訂咗7個位嘅話，咁就應該都會一個嘅應該都係有一個雙數，即係話如果訂咗7個位，俾8個位俾8個位嘅台俾你，咁可以加多2個，咁應該都得嘅。咁如果有興趣嚟嘅話，都係嚟一嚟啊！我因為我私底下就同啲網友傾咧，都係佢哋有唔少人都係話未去過。即係未去過一個嘅志蓮淨苑，或者未去過呢個餐廳。咁但係呢個志蓮淨苑本身係一邊係公園，另外一邊係真係俾一邊係廟宇，再入啲咧，其實就係有啲嘅有啲嘅應該係尼姑啊。應該係冇和尚，唔知係咪有男有就係純粹女咧？有可能有男有女，或者純粹女嘅一啲嘅修行者啦，就喺嗰度咧，就係呢個嘅去居住同埋去呢個修行嘅。但係嗰邊應該係入唔到，唔參觀唔到啦。咁就通常喺公園嗰邊開放，咁亦都係行一行嘅。我預咗都係嗰一日會早少少會行一行。應該嗰一日28號星期六嚟咁啊，所以呢度順便就預告埋啦。呢一個月嘅28號星期六咁就冇節目嘅，但係可能就喺食肆入邊或者喺公園入邊會開下直播咯。唔係公園唔知，我記得好似有一次我去第一次去嘅個公園開機影嘢，就話唔知係咪唔得嘅，因為直播唔知得唔得喺公園入邊。如果唔得嘅話，喺餐廳入邊就一個嘅開一段短嘅直播，所以嗰日都係直播，不過就唔係做節目，亦都唔係即係唔係講咩嘅政治嘅事情而係咧就係一個嘅純粹 同一班冇出嚟食飯啊，或者聚會之後咧就開個直播，咁所有都有直播，咁但係咧就冇呢個嘅常規嘅每日美國時評嘅呢個節目咁樣樣，咁啊提早提示俾大家。睇下仲有一樣嘢就係公開嚟講，就係話其實就係我自己喺呢個群組或者係一啲嘅Facebook 啊嗰個出 post 啊，嗰個群組出呢個嘅 tmsyut 個群組出 post 啊，或者出啲 YouTube post 咧，冇乜人應，即係話例如喂我嗰日想咧就約出嚟食飯或者約出嚟聚會，冇乜人應嘅話咧，其實我唔介意嘅。其實面皮咧非常之厚嘅，大家用話就唔使介意，就話喂我唔知喎，冇應到你喎，唔好意思啊嘛，其實咧就唔需要嘅。咁我見你唔應機嘅話，就自然咧會做咗另外啲嘢噶啦。我自己咧真係的確嘅，由細到大俾阿媽鬧啊，就係話我周身刀，即係周身人啊，即係話一個嘅好多唔同嘅事咧都想做，話好多唔同嘅事咧都有興趣去呢一個嘅搞下。咁所以其實咧就係呢個嘅大家唔應我機都冇問題，我總會有見過啲嘢咧可以做嘅。好，咁到呢度咧就係真係咁多啦，咁就係一個節目，咁直播到而家就係結束，咁就係下一次咧嘅直播就係喺呢一個嘅嚟緊星期二、星期一例行嘅休息日子，咁下一集變翻常規，變翻廣東話嘅每日美國時評啦噃，咁繼續咧用翻廣東話嚟對佢講咧其他美國新聞俾大家知道嘅，到時見啦，拜拜。